Christina. I'm Chinwei. I'm the CEO of PocketSuite and one of the co-founders. It's really excited to talk to you today.
I'm excited to talk to you guys too.
Great. I'm Sean. I'm the community manager, and I love dogs and all things dogs. I'm super excited to talk to you.
Awesome.
It's all about dogs on the Instagram page, so you'll see Sean's love. So this is the lounge. I'm so glad you're outside. The vibe is absolutely right. We've got like drinks here, so feel free to imbibe.
That's my little buddy.
Ah!
Oh, what
He's one of our group.
Oh, so cute. So Christina, we're setting up these calls with our community to just to learn more, to hear your story, to connect. Really, it's been unexpected. The conversations that we've had, what we've learned about our pros and the community, and we've just all been blown away. We've gotten really, really good feedback from everyone that just hearing these stories is such an inspiration for everybody. So I'm glad that you're willing to participate and share, and we're excited to share your story and get the word out.
For sure. I've been really happy with PocketSuite for taking care of all of my business type things. It's nice to not have to have multiple apps and multiple things. It's nice to just have everything in one spot, especially when, you're busy. And, I can tend to be scatterbrained at times.
We all are, believe me.
It's nice to just have one spot where all my stuff is and I can just count on it, and it's been really great.
So, Christina, can you tell us how did you get into dog walking? Like what's the scope of the set of things that you do for your clients?
So I got into dog training. I've only been officially dog training for the last year or so. I've worked with dogs though for the last 12 years. So I've done a little bit of everything. I've done rescue work. I've been a veterinary technician. I'm a certified pet groomer. Wow. Pretty much the only thing I haven't done is being an actual veterinarian. But this last year, I landed an apprenticeship with a local dog trainer, and I had been out of work at the time, so I figured, yeah, sure, why not? So I took it on, and I was there for about 6 months, and I had a lot of fun, and I learned a lot. And then I decided towards the end of last year to just take it on my own. So, because I was an independent contractor for her anyway, so I already had my business license and all that kind of stuff. So, I just decided to go it on my own and make a little more money, not be paying someone else to work, basically. So what we do is we do private sessions. So that's where I go either to your home or, lately with all this COVID stuff, it's been a lot of parks or backyards, things like that, trying to do it outside as much as possible. And then we also launched online sessions, obviously, like everybody's doing stuff online now, right? So we launched online sessions. And then I also do board and trainings out of my home where I have the dogs for either 15 or 22 days at my house. Wow. And then we do intensive training there as well. So right now, those are most of our offerings. I'm working on getting what's called a nosework certification, which is it's one of the many dog sports that's out there. I just happen to really like nosework. So eventually we'll be offering some nosework classes and some canine good citizenship classes and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's kind of what we're offering right now.
Let me ask you this. You've been doing this for 12 years. Did you grow up with dogs? Like what was the
It's completely my mom's fault. She was a vet tech when I was a kid. And so when I wasn't in school, I was with her cleaning cages, walking dogs, cleaning exam rooms, all that kind of stuff when I was real little. So, she always joked with me that, veterinary medicine, you don't make much money, being a vet tech. I was like, but it's completely your fault. You did it. Like,
it's a family business. I love it.
I'm like, I don't know what you're complaining about. It's your fault. But yeah, I've always done something with animals in one way or another. And then my first job out of high school was working at a 80-acre animal sanctuary where they rescue dogs and cats and farm animals. So I spent 2 years there, which is really like the basis of my animal behavior knowledge, because you really have to be knowledgeable with rescue dogs, just for everybody's safety. You can't go in not knowing anything about dogs, and that's a good recipe for getting bit. So that was definitely where I learned most of my behavior type stuff was from that. But yeah, it started real young, and my daughter's the same way. So she'll be 7 in August,
Three
and her first word,
generations. Three
yeah,
generations. I love it.
her first word was dog.
No, that's
Yeah.
too much.
She actually has one of our company shirts that says "Future Dog Trainer" on the back, because mine says "Dog Trainer" on the back. So she insisted that hers say "Future Dog Trainer." And if you ask
Awesome.
her what her job is, she says, "I'm a dog trainer."
I love it. So it's funny, like all around the world, the easiest thing to say is mom, like for the first word for kids. That's the easiest thing to say, just because it doesn't take as much work.
Right.
And apparently in Japan, it's mom is actually harder to say, because you have to say like haha, and that's actually harder. You have to form your vocal cords have to form. So chi father is like the easiest thing to say. So you guys have just broken the mold with dog, because dog is actually pretty hard, right? Like you have to go in 2 directions with your vocal cords. I love it. Future dog trainer. You have to send us a picture of her wearing that shirt, and we're gonna get it up on Instagram. That's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, I have one of both her and I. So mine says dog trainer, and hers says dog.
Oh, that's great. You're gonna have people like pinging you on Instagram to get get some copies of that shirt, honestly. So let me ask you this, because I was really excited about hearing that you did an apprenticeship for a while. That's something that I know is pretty popular in the dog training field, and we actually haven't seen it in a lot of other fields that I think could benefit from it. Can you share a little bit about your process, like for deciding to do an apprenticeship, and what you feel like the main things you got out of it? I think we lost you on audio. Did we lose you?
Yep.
Okay. I think we lost you on audio.
There we go.
It's because my mom was calling me.
Oh, okay.
So, I was looking for work at the time, and I was looking on Indeed, and this dog trainer had posted that she was looking for some help. She had recently lost her other 2 apprentices. And so I went and I had an interview with her. And yeah, after I left, I was just like, why not? Because it seemed like it was one facet that I hadn't done officially yet. I had some behavior background, but I'd never trained specifically, other than my own dogs. But it blended a lot of things that I like to do. So I really like to teach people. At one point in my life, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. And anyone who's thinking about going into any animal related profession, don't think that you won't have to deal with people. Everybody says, I love animals, I want to work with animals, but there's always people involved. And if you are not a people person, you're not going to get much out of working with animals. Because even if they don't have an owner, which most of them do, even working in the rescues, you have other staff members and you have volunteers and the general public. And so there's always people. But I really liked the educating people aspect of things, because I still am blown away by how much we don't know as a general public about dogs and their needs and their behaviors and things like that. So it just blended a lot of stuff I wanted to do. So I figured, yeah, sure, why not? And so she decided to take me on as well. And yeah, I learned a ton about, mostly what I learned from her. I knew a lot about the dog side of things, but more so what I learned from her was how to get through to people and the business side of things, because unfortunately there's a lot of dog trainers out there, because our industry is very unregulated. So there's no degree you have to have or license you have to have, or at least in most states. There may be states that have more, or maybe even other countries that have more requirements, but literally you can watch a couple of YouTube videos and buy a business license or not and decide you're a dog trainer.
Wow.
So I learned a lot about taxes, unfortunately.
Ouch.
Income and taxes and collecting taxes and and that kind of stuff, which was really invaluable to me in starting my business, because I personally have 100% success rate with training dogs myself, but it's the owner that needs to do it, not me. So if you can't get through to an owner, that's how you get bad reviews and people upset with you and wanting refunds and all that kind of stuff, because they didn't get anything out of it. And it's not just about the dog, it's about the owner. So that was really the invaluable part to me, was learning to be open-minded and to find out ways to connect with people.
Yeah.
To get the point across. And if something's not working, to try and find another way to explain it so it is working.
So how much of that, Christina, is really holding up the mirror to somebody's and their behaviors, right? Like, isn't that's like a very personal
Yes
discussion?
Yes,
Wow.
definitely. It's that's a hard line to take. But for me personally, so I don't necessarily consider myself one of these trainers that deals with major aggression issues and stuff like that. That's not really my deal. What my deal is our mission statement here at Best Paw Forward Training is keeping dogs out of shelters and in their homes with training and education. So that's my main goal, is to either make a shelter dog more adoptable by training them, or to make a dog fit into a family to where they don't have to be rehomed. And besides that goal, my next goal is kids and dogs being safe together. As a mom, that's like my number one hot button. If you want to hear me get not very nice, it is when kids and dogs are not being safe together. Okay? And that's a really hard discussion to have with people, that you're letting your dog, or you're letting your child be inappropriate with your dog, and you need to rein that in. And a lot, and I'll be honest with you, I have had people not call me back because they weren't very happy with the fact that I said, this is unsafe and you need to fix it and it's your fault. But personally, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I didn't tell people the truth. And I don't try and be a jerk about it, but I'm, that's one area where I have no leeway whatsoever. One of the dogs I have right now for board and training, she's here for a 22-day board and train. She is, I've yet to find a good way to explain this. She is the dog of one of my previous clients' moms.
Okay.
And they called me the day after an incident where one of the grandkids actually had to get stitches in her lip from the dog. And in talking with them, and she's actually studying like psychiatry right now, I believe. So a lot of the stuff I was saying to her made a lot of sense. But again, like you said, it's being that mirror. So a lot of times people do know it. They just either didn't trust themselves enough, or they didn't even realize that they knew it. And then you say something to them and they're like, oh, I knew that. And you're like, I know you knew it, but you had to hear me say it. So, we were sitting there and she's just like, gosh, now I can see, what the situation was and why that happened. And so it's definitely, you have to walk that line between getting people to understand that, I see you an hour a day, or I have your dog for 22 days and then they go home. And in my board and train program, I build in 4 follow-up sessions. So they have 5 hours of training with me after their board and train. So they understand what their dog learned, how to make them do that, all that kind of stuff. But, realistically, I get that question all the time. Like I said earlier, well, can you guarantee me that you can fix my dog? Yes, I can guarantee you that I personally can make your dog do what you're trying to get them to do and or not do.
Yeah.
But you have to put in your side of the work, or else, no, it's not going to work. And it can be kind of frustrating because I get so invested in my clients. I love my clients. I love their dogs. So when I know a dog can do something, but then the owners just aren't making it happen, sometimes that can be very frustrating. Sure.
Well, so here's what gets me about dog training, and we have thousands of dog trainers that are in our community across the country, and so it's like the industry is one that's really near and dear to us. But dog training seems to be one of the few professions where you effectively are working yourself out of a job. Like when you're successful, like they don't have to come back. And so I think about all the other professions, dog walking, pet grooming, like they come back, right? Like it's a recurring service. So how do you reconcile that in your business? Like you've worked so hard to build this client relationship and you don't necessarily have the benefits other than the referral benefits, which are important, but the benefits of that recurring relationship.
So for me, I'm lucky because I do the boarding. So
Okay.
so I only board for my clients. I don't board for the general public. So if you just called me and said, "Hey, I have a dog to board," I would not board your dog.
Okay.
Well, maybe you because you work for me.
Well, thank you.
But I only board for my clients. Okay. So, and a lot of people like that. And also, when they board with me, it's not just they have a place to stay and they go out and play. I call it a board and train light. So they actually still will go on field trips to stores and parks and things like that with me, and I work on their training so they don't come back with bad habits. So there's that aspect of it. But honestly, like I've been pretty lucky. My clients will still, even if their package is over, they'll still call me up and say, "So now this happened. What do I do? Can I have a one-off refresher session with you?" Or yeah, the referrals are great as well. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely I've had that problem in the past too because I'm so passionate about it and I love teaching people about their dogs, where I'll give them so much information in the consult that it fixes their issue and then they don't
They
actually
don't
need
need
it.
the service. I love it.
So I'm still learning how to rein that in a little so I at least get a couple sessions.
Yeah. I've
But
seen
yeah, I mean, I guess I haven't really thought about it that way, but that is true for sure.
But
Well, I've
there's
seen a
a
few.
counterpoint. There's a
Okay, go
counterpoint
ahead.
to that. Sorry to cut off. That like dog training is pretty essential at some point. Like, okay, maybe you can have anyone walk your dog. Maybe you can have a number of people groom your dog. But if you have behavioral problems in your dog, these are things that can greatly impact a lot of people's lives. This can land you in jail. So on the flip side, that is a positive aspect of the business. Like it's something you can't sleep on. If your dog has a behavioral problem, you have two choices. You train it out of the dog or you have to get rid of your dog, right?
Yeah.
I
Well, I would also say, just to build on Christina's point, is that like you become the sort of family expert on the dog, and so that the family is going through a lot of different milestones over time: new baby, new location, new job, new ways of being. And clients probably reach out even after the training to say, "Hey, this just came up." Like, as you said, Christina, I've seen some dog trainers actually create subscription packages where people can reach out to them anytime after the training, but they just have to pay some kind of nominal amount to just have that open door to be able to ask questions as they come up. And it sort of frees folks up from feeling like, I got to get everything out of this one session. Otherwise, or these set of sessions. Otherwise, I lose the expert.
Do you follow up video conferencing with the dog? Like, have you remembered what I told you?
Right. Well, it is actually funny because there's this one client that I have and they have a little Norwegian elk hound, and I've literally known her now since she was 8 weeks old and she just turned a year. So I've pretty much known her all her life, and I haven't seen her, gosh, in I don't know, months maybe, with all this COVID stuff. And we recently had they still have an active package with me. They just haven't really been able to use it. And so I go over there and I'm there maybe 2 minutes and she is right back into shape. And they're like, she has been a monster. And all of a sudden you show up and I can't tell you how many clients are like, can you just move in? Because their dogs behave when I'm around. And I don't even have to tell them to do anything. They just know what I expect of them. So now they're doing it and they're like, you just can't ever leave. Because the minute you leave, then they're a monster again.
Can I expand on that though? But it sounds like there's a certain personality type or certain techniques that a canine will respond to, and some people have them and some people don't. And do you try to impart that into the owners? Be like, all sorts of people have different styles of parenting. Some people are very hands-off, laissez-faire. Some people are like over disciplinarian. I've had dogs my whole life. My dad bred huskies, border collies. I've had very challenging dogs, from a Presa Canaria to very intelligent dogs. And I have my own method of doing it, but I'm wondering if there is a provable scientific method that all dogs respond to well in terms of that personality type or that approach.
I think the biggest thing for most dogs that I have found is being fair with them, in the sense of, so I'm what you consider a balanced trainer. So I do everything from lure your puppy with treats to more e-collar type work, all that kind of stuff. So I have a lot of tools in my tool bag for any kind of, problem that you may have. But no matter what method I'm using, I'm always fair. So if I'm giving a correction, it's just that. It's one little correction, and then I'm done. I don't hold a grudge about it. I don't make a big deal about it. So, like, for instance, the appointment I just came from, this little Jack Russell Terrier, and she is now going into her second, what they call fear period. She's right about 8 months old. And she has started getting worse about her displays on walks, as far as if they go by other dogs, if they go by other people. She's tried to nip at some people. She's nipped the male owner, things like that. So I put what's called a star mark collar on her. It's just a little plastic prong collar. Put a star mark collar on her, walked around the neighborhood, and they could not believe how well she was behaving. Why? Because I just made her do it. Like, I didn't make a big fuss about it. I just put the collar on her and we went, and I just expected her to behave. When she didn't, I gave her a little leash pop and I said, nope, come on, let's just do this. We're doing it. Let's go. And I wasn't overly dramatic about it, and I wasn't unfair, and my corrections weren't unfounded. So generally, and that kind of comes from, their wolf ancestry and that kind of stuff. If you're fair about either affection or discipline with the dog, generally they will respond to that.
Right.
But you have to actually give them those boundaries. It's just like kids. We want to be the awesome parent that they love, right? But you do have to give them rules, and deep down they do want rules. Even if at first they give you guff about it, they do want you to be in charge. They don't really want to make the decision, so sometimes they feel like they have to make the decision because you're not doing it.
It's funny. I have two toddlers, one that's 3, one that's 2, and their preschool teacher said something to me that resonated. She said, not giving a child rules is like going to the top of the Empire State Building and not having any walls around the edges, right? So you're like, I could walk. The closer I walk to the edge, the scarier it gets. Like, they actually want boundaries because they want to know how far they can go before things get really ugly. And I was like, wow, that made sense to me. Yeah, it gets scary if they have no boundaries.
You can take that one step further. So I was out last night with these people that train $75,000 to $95,000 home security dogs, and I met all their dogs. They're Belgian Shepherds, they're Malinois, which I know a bit about, and they're German Shepherds. And they said certain breeds, like the Belgian Malinois, if that dog does not have a purpose or a very defined job, they're horrible to deal with. Yep. Like, that is just in their breed. They need to be tasked. They're a working dog. If you try to keep that dog as a pet with no stimulus, wow, it's going to revert to its natural instincts. It'll destroy your house. It'll be disruptive. It'll be a bad pet. So to even take that one step further, and this is a personal interest of me. I don't know if you remember that old movie Beverly Hills Cop, and they're rich. Their dog has a dog psychologist. But I wonder, and Chinwe also is interested in stuff like this, how much of our personality traits and our dysfunctions as humans have we imparted into this animal we've kind of built up and genetically engineered to be our companion? And have we put our psychology and our psychological hiccups into the canine rather than it being an independent animal? Have we given them our problems, I guess?
Yeah, we definitely have for some. So I preach this all the time. So I have hunting dogs. So I have 6 dogs, and they're all a random hodgepodge of dogs, but 2 of my dogs are hunting dogs. They're German Shorthair Pointers. And when I ran my own animal rescue, pointing breeds are the ones that I rescued. So I rescued Vizslas and Weimaraners and Setters and Pointers. And we have such a disconnect now with what our dogs were bred to do. So many people do not understand. So going back to this JRT, they were like, well, she just pushes her boundaries and she can just be so impetuous and so bold. And I said, she's a terrier. That's what they do. Are you going to be timid when you're sticking your head down a badger hole? No, you're not going to do that because that's how you get your face ripped off. So, and they were like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And so many people don't understand that it's not, your dog doesn't have a problem. The fact that she's bold is not a problem. That's what she was bred to do. You have to find the way to channel that and make it work in your life. So one of the things I'm going to be doing with them is introducing something called a flirt pole, which is basically like those feather cat toys, but it's for dogs. So then she can get that nipping, prey, chase aspect of her life on something constructive that's not the family. And there's something, and I forget now what it's called, but for herding dogs, they basically take like huge like beach balls, and they have to herd these beach balls into a soccer goal, basically. So there's ways to channel what they were meant to do, but you have to know what they were meant to do. So
I love incorporating sort of the breeding science, the history into the training itself, right?
You're doing your dog a disservice to try and suppress what they were meant to do. That's just not fair.
Wow. I've got to ask this, Christina, and I know we're approaching time. What do you say to the skeptics who are like, how do you do dog training via video? Like, what do you say to the folks who are like, am I going to be focused on the camera angles? How do I focus, and execute this like super difficult thing?
Well, I'll be honest. I was very against the online training boat there for a little while, until Mother Nature forced me to become one with it. And I did it kicking and screaming and very begrudgingly because I am a very personal, in-person, tactile learner myself. And so that's how I like to teach. I like to be with you. I like to be able to take the leash and say, no, hold it this way, not that way. Or, you should have stepped in here instead of waiting for that kind of stuff. So it definitely is a little bit of a learning process. I will tell you, it's not easy for everybody. And just like with any kind of learning you're going to do, it's not going to click with everybody. But it's worth a try, because really the only difference between me being in person with you and us doing it online is that I can't take the leash from you. But other than that, I can still see what you're doing, and what I'm looking at is your handling and the dog. I'm not necessarily looking at you, because what I want to be able to do is correct your timing, because almost all issues with giving corrections and or praise are timing related. When you gave it, how quickly you gave it, and how you gave it. And so that's what I'm focusing on. And I know it's hard to be on camera and to see yourself. So a lot of times I'll tell people, well, just make the box real small in the corner. If you're worried about seeing yourself. I had that issue too when I first started. I've been doing a lot more YouTube videos and stuff like that recently. And I can't tell you how many takes it takes for me to make a YouTube video because I'm always like, nope, I messed that word up, or, that kind of stuff. But it's a lot easier than you think, and it can be pretty fun too. There's been a few times where I've had a dog on my end and they've had a dog on their end, and then maybe the dogs actually end up seeing each other or hearing each other, and so they'll be like, huh? So that can be really fun too.
But a doggy Zoom call,
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
So Christina, now that states are open or counties are opening back up, what kind of clients are still sort of open to doing the video training? I'm assuming that everybody prefers the in-person, or are there, we talk to fitness trainers and others who say actually some people prefer the Zoom calls or the video calls. Do you have
so far, I have found most people still prefer the in-person.
Yeah.
I live in Washington State. I live in Western Washington. I'm north of Seattle. I do some stuff in Seattle, but I try and avoid it when I can, to be honest with you. But I have found that a lot of people just still really want the in-persons. And we've done, I've posted videos of me and friends doing Zoom trainings and that kind of stuff. Just to kind of get people to understand what it is, how it works, all that kind of stuff. But I'm just finding that a lot of people still really I think it's because people feel like people really want me to understand what they're going through. They want me to see what they're going through because that's validating to them. Yeah. So this little Jack Russell, she barely misbehaved at all while I was there, and the owners were like, "Oh, come on, like you would have been way worse during this walk, and now the trainer's here, and now you're behaving fine." So it makes them feel a little invalidated when I just show up and the dog just behaves, which I totally understand that that's not my intent at all, to make you look bad in front of your dog.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, so I don't know if it's that aspect of it, or people are just still. I mean, I certainly know, there's some bigger trainers that I follow that's almost all they do is video training.
Wow, interesting.
But I guess I don't know if it's, the market I'm in or what, I don't know, but it seems like people are still really liking the in-person.
Yep.
Right. I have an assumption, and we may have touched on this quickly before, but my feeling is during COVID, a lot of people really got to know their families and their dogs better than they did when they were working full time. So did you get a real reach out from people like, now that I've spent 24 hours a day with my dog for weeks on end, I can see there's an issue here that before I didn't even have time to recognize or address?
For sure, there's that, and then I would say at least 8 out of 10 people that are contacting me right now decided to get puppies.
Nice.
So there is a ton of puppies right now.
Nice.
Even more so than normal. I mean, summer's usually a big puppy time anyway, because everybody wants to take a puppy with them when they go camping or RVing or what have you. But yeah, it seems like everybody and their brother got a puppy.
That's hilarious. I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, and not only that, but just the situation has also brought stuff out that wasn't actually there before. So, there's some dogs that are now exhibiting more separation anxiety type stuff that traditionally didn't really have that problem. Now that, everybody's been home, and because dogs are very routine. They like routine, they like consistency, they like to know what's up. And so now their routine got shifted, and then it's shifted again now that everybody's going back to work and that kind of stuff. And so a lot of dogs now are just having those issues, unfortunately. But yeah, I've definitely gotten a lot of calls from people that are like, you know what? That's kind of manageable when I saw them for a couple hours before bed, and then I went to work and they went to daycare or whatever. But yeah, now it's driving me insane, and I want to do something about it.
I have but one last question. So my brush with greatness is I was in Hollywood and I was at an award show and I was in the green room with Cesar Millan and his pit bull dog. And let's put it this way. A lot of people like dogs. Probably the majority of people like dogs. I've been around them, but you're a dog trainer. And as part of these interviews, we always ask, like, what would you recommend to an up and coming or an aspiring dog trainer? And my question is, hey, everybody loves dogs, but what attributes do you actually need in your personality to be able to train them? Because a lot of people probably assume they can train a dog, but no, it takes a special individual. And what are those skills?
So for sure, it's not a love of dogs. You have to be obsessed with dogs. You have to eat, sleep, breathe, dream about dogs. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've woke up in the middle of the night and I'm like, well, crap, I should have told so-and-so that. Or, oh, I just figured out how to fix that finally. So now I got to text them at, 1 o'clock in the morning, and it's work. I mean, when I have board and trained dogs at my house, I am married to my house. I can't, I can't go out and have a romantic weekend with my husband because the dogs can't be left unattended. I work by myself, and they're in my home. So I constantly have to plan my life around the dogs. And not only that, but the other day I came in, and for whatever reason, I don't know what it was, everybody decided to have completely blowout diarrhea everywhere.
No.
One of them even puked. And so, hey, hush. So, you have to be able to deal with, I get dogs that are car sick. So all my dogs travel in crates in my car. So I don't have to clean up my car necessarily. But just this morning, one of my boarding dogs, I had them at the park for an hour. Where did they pee? In their crate on the way to my client. So I had to pull over on the middle of the road, put on my gloves, get out my shop towels, the thicker blue towels, and clean up pee on the side of the road. So you have to be able to deal with that aspect of things. My house is never clean. I mean, it's clean on the surface, but as far as like my carpet, don't even get me started on the dirt in my carpet. It's not pee stains.
Christina, it sounds like you're describing a parent of toddlers. I think I'm a shoe-in here.
Side hustle.
It definitely is, but and the other thing too is you have to be the kind of person who's open-minded, because dogs are living beings. And even dogs from the same litter from a line that's 7 bajillion generations old, they're going to be individuals. They're going to fall into, some standards, but they're living beings. So you have to be able to think on the fly, and you have to be able to understand when you're asking too much of an owner. Because sometimes what is right for their dog just isn't something that they feel like they can do. And it sucks when that happens, but then you have to switch gears and think, okay, how can I make this more manageable for them? You can't put yourself into a box and think that you know everything, because you just don't. I mean, there's no way to know everything. So you have to be, I call myself a perpetual student. So, just the other day I was taking Learburg classes. Even though I've been working with dogs for 12 years, I've had them my whole life. I've been doing this professionally for a year. I still take classes. In August, I'm going to a seminar with a big name trainer. So you have to like to learn, and then you also have to like to impart that teaching to other people and be open to them teaching you. I've definitely had clients who have taught me a lot about just people in general that I didn't know before. So yeah, like I said in the beginning, you just have to understand that there's always going to be people involved. So you can't be that I hate people and antisocial type of person, because ultimately it's not the dogs paying you, it's the owners paying you. And
be honest. Do you like people or dogs better? I think I know your answer.
I like dog people the best.
Ooh, good answer. Good answer.
But people who are into dogs, and I really can't think of anyone that I've met who doesn't genuinely, even if they don't have all the knowledge, deep in their heart they don't have their dog's best interest at heart. Everybody does, and you do as good as you know how to do. So that's where I try and come in and help them do better, because I feel like everybody really is doing the best that they know how. Whether that's actually the best or not is my job to help them with, basically.
But one question, this is a fun question. What's your theme song?
So my cell phone ringtone is Who Let the Dogs Out.
Who let the dogs out? We're totally going to play that. I love it.
That and Snoop Dogg.
Yes. For sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Christina, it's been so fun talking to you.